up, Amani. If I ask our audience actually to look at this photograph, it is a photograph of Stacey Dooley. She posted it on Instagram. She's working in Uganda for Comic Relief. And Mr. Lammy, you say that that kind of image perpetuates, quote, tired and unhelpful stereotypes. Tell us what you mean.
Look, charity is a good thing. All of us understand that. But how we do charity is important. Comic Relief is a 20-year-old formula that asks comedians to perform and sends celebrities, most often white, out to Africa. And that image evokes for lots and lots of ethnic minorities in Britain a colonial image, a white, beautiful heroine holding a black child with no agency, no parents in sight, finger in the mouth. Actually, if I had my children posing, I'd never have them with a finger in the mouth, completely supine. And I'm afraid it perpetuates an image. So it's not that the charity isn't good, but Comic Relief is doing very little to educate its public. People don't realise that the black diaspora in Britain send more money to Africa than the whole of the aid budget combined. No idea. It says nothing about an emerging middle class in Africa, nothing about growth in African countries. So the image is a perpetual image of people who are impoverished, who need white celebrities who are largely uneducated about the context. And I'm afraid, despite the fact that Stacey Dooley is a popular and has done some fantastic journalism, the image that she wants to tweet conveys an age-old trope that's her as the heroine, that's the black sort of child that's victim, and we've got to stop it. We've got to use these platforms in a better way. And I have to say, the BBC, which has a responsibility to educate, has a responsibility for equality and multiculturalism, is failing if it allows Comic Relief and Richard Curtis effectively just to sit back with the same old white privilege and the same old comedians raking in the money for what purpose? And I say what purpose because Comic Relief doesn't need to exist. It's got to exist alongside trade, governance and effective campaigning. We used to have the Spastic Society. It's now called Scope. We moved on because we understood that the world of disability has changed. This is no different. Grow up, change the record, change the formula.
I've got a statement from Comic Relief, but I know you've had this conversation with Lenny Henry, and what does he say to you?
Look, I have had the conversation with Lenny, and Comic Relief say they are changing. They are changing. I challenged them. Where are the ethnic minority journalists, cameramen that would film some of these in very different ways with a different lens? How are they supporting Africans to be on television themselves? So they're meant to be changing. I'm afraid the imagery that Stacey put on her Instagram conveys a different message. The change is very slow.
And she tweeted you back. She tweeted you back and she said, genuine question, David, is it because I am white?
I think that suggests she doesn't understand the issues, doesn't it? And that's part of the problem. She, despite the fact she has power and agency, she's not sought to educate herself about the issues. Let me say the phrase white saviour, I did not coin it. It's been around for over 100 years. It's this idea that somehow we are privileged, those of us who are Westerners, that Africans are victims, that we can save them. It's a kind of missionary idea, and it's deeply problematic because what it does is it keeps the continent of Africa poor. It keeps people in their place. It doesn't take ownership. It doesn't empower them. It doesn't empower the audience. And if you look at the Twitter feed that I've had, many, many people are entirely ignorant about this issue. They just don't understand the damage that they're causing.
I've had so many messages. I'm just going to read two. Mark says, I respect David Lammy, but I think he's got this wrong. Stacey Dooley is just trying to help and do a good thing. She's helping to raise money for a great charity. Please stop turning
That's
every...
not the point, is it?
Please stop turning every issue
It's not the
into
point.
political football. Ian says, no, we don't need white middle-class journalists hopping on jets and parading black children like trophies for what is first and foremost a TV entertainment that showcases comic celebrities. It's sickening and it is reinforcement of white superiority.
That's right.
And this statement from Comic Relief: in our UK and international appeal films, people working with or supported by Comic Relief funded projects tell their own stories in their own words. Stacey Dooley is a highly acclaimed investigative journalist who's filmed and reported on issues all over the world, helping to put a much-needed spotlight on often challenging and upsetting issues that affect people's lives daily. We're proud and grateful that Stacey has given up her time to help us report on how donations to Comic Relief are supporting a neonatal unit that aims to improve healthcare for women and newborns and a project to help combat malaria in Uganda.
Personally, I don't think it's Stacey's fault in my mind. I think that, you know, the people that are behind her that are allowing these images to go out, they have a responsibility as well. But I also feel like from a societal level, you know, these conversations need to be had. You know, I'm a young black boy. I'm seeing someone that looks like me stand up on the BBC and say something like this. I don't know when the last time I've seen that happen. And it's important that we continue to have conversations like that. I'm not saying that everything you said I agree with, I'll be honest, but I think it's role models now. It's role models, and there's enough of us that are willing to stand up and go back in and empower the kids. The film that I made had 1 million views in 4 days. And most of the kids that were watching it were young boys and girls. And their engagement with us was, thank you for being someone that I can look up to. Thank you for being a light. And I just encourage other people to do the same in their communities.
I can't emphasise enough. Comic Relief is responsible for young people in Britain, black and whites, their understanding of Africa. No other organisation has more responsibility for young people's understanding of Africa. It's been looked. No. Comic Relief reaches many more kids. It was studied at Leeds Metropolitan University. That was the case.
Well,
and the problem with that, if you send kids off for red noses, the young people have no understanding that there are skyscrapers in Lagos. Of course. They have no understanding that there's an emerging middle class. They have no understanding of growth. They do not understand that black families, like the ones here, send money back for their relatives and more than the aid budget. There is a role for schools, but Comic Relief are in schools. And I don't want my children growing up with that perpetual image that damages their sense of selves and leads to the kinds of discussions we were having before about identity. That's the responsibility Richard Curtis has. He should use the platform responsibly.
I'm going to pause there. Thank you so much. Thank you for engaging in conversation, everybody. Really appreciate it this morning. Thank you. Thank you.